Okay. Party music. Ooh, intro music. Yeah, party, intro music, dancing like we're at the club. Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to this great podcast, the Slappin Kpop podcast. It's your girl Maria, and I'm here with the one and only Sammi.
Hello.
And Kayla.
Hello.
Yeah, so we're gonna move on to now tier 3, a whole episode dedicated to everything in tier 3 and our ongoing major saga of going through our K-pop tier iceberg, K-pop iceberg. Sorry, the giant K-pop scandal iceberg. But yeah,
yes.
We're continuing on. It's I'd say overall it's a lighter episode than the last tier episode we did.
Yeah, I feel
the
like
last one was a lot.
When
tier 2 was a lot.
At tier 3 now, we are getting into specific scandals as opposed to tier 1 that was broad topics.
Mm-hmm.
Tier 2 that was one specific
that
topic.
was one scandal.
Mm-hmm.
And now tier 3 and beyond are just like very specific situations.
Not to say
All
everything's
of
kosher.
These are major situations.
Oh yeah,
but they're more specific, centralized, as opposed to tier 1 where we had the general concept of racism.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Each of these things are going to be talking about one specific incident, really. So
1 to 2, yeah.
That's how it's gonna kind of be for the rest of the iceberg as well. So hoopla.
So we have some very fun topics this time.
This is the, I call it the mostly SM party featuring a few random people and a little bit of Cube.
Featuring Cube?
Featuring Cube Entertainment as well.
But there's one where it's a
SM
few
party
random people.
Featuring Cube and also 2 other people.
And then we have like one scandal that isn't SM or Cube. So
exactly.
This is the SM heavy tier.
Yep.
SM gotta do it to them.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we begin with like the first big SM scandal we have?
Mm-hmm.
So the first scandal we're going to go through is the XOM Hanggang scandal, which is essentially SM mistreating their Chinese artists.
Yes.
So for background, on December 21st of 2009, Han filed for contract termination from his former company SM Entertainment, arguing that the 13-year length and structure of his exclusive contract, as well as the terms of profit distribution, were unilaterally disadvantageous toward the artist and should be invalidated. Along with this, it was disclosed that because of SM's refusal to give him a day off in over 2 years, he had developed gastritis and kidney disease. And then in December 21st, 2010, the Seoul Central District Court ruled in favor of Han. However, a representative of SM Entertainment stated that they will file an immediate appeal to reverse the decision. Then in 2011, Han and SM have officially come to a mutual agreement regarding his contract and closed the case. He would not continue his exclusive contract with SM and no longer had any legally binding connection with SM Entertainment, as stated by Yehua Entertainment, who is his now current and to this day his management company. So, for background, Hanggang is the first Chinese idol. He was in Super Junior and was like the only one for a while, actually.
Very
to the
long
point
time.
where when he first debuted, he was not allowed to be on television because of the laws. He had to wear a mask, which is wild.
That's still wild to me. And I get it was, and it's also like, when I think about it, it's like, that was a long time ago. And I'm like, but it's only 2009. Like, that wasn't that long ago. Like,
I mean, yeah, it was
like about 13 years
which
ago.
was like 2005-ish.
that's still not that long
That's
ago.
still not that long ago, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
get that it all changed so quickly, and I understand that. But also, this is sort of this is an incident that SM continues to get, especially with their foreign idols, where like they have to, because if you think about it, we'll get to another contract dispute later, but a 13-year contract is a very long contract to sign when
that's
you
so
are
long.
still a minor, because half of these idols were you sign K-pop contracts essentially when you're still children. You're not 18. You're signing a 13-year contract? That's insane.
Oh yeah, then this is definitely still in the phase where we don't have like the 7-year contract length
Oh,
or
yeah.
like what is typically standard in K-pop now, and so that is just insane that SM
Mhm.
Entertainment was doing 10 to 13 year long contracts with all
Yeah.
of their artists at that point in time.
Oh, yeah. And I do think that it was very, because, like, we'll see that he leaves now, Hanging leaves now, and then we just don't really get another, the only Chinese member of Super Junior at that point that becomes Henry.
And Henry is specifically
And Henry
in
is
Super
Chinese.
Junior M.
And also
As
Henry
well.
is Chinese American.
Yeah. And he is
He-
also not like officially in regular Super Junior
Not officially,
either.
yeah,
Like they
that
had
as well.
purposely kept him separated into Super Junior.
Him and is it
Yep.
Is it Jomi? Whatever his name is.
Xiaomi.
Xiaomi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
The two of them, were specifically only
in
allowed in
Super
that
Junior M.
subunit.
I think because
Yeah, they
Which
don't
was
get to be in
Chinese.
regular
I think it was
Super.
because
Yeah.
Suju fans were not really thrilled with having more people.
Oh, Suju fans also, I mean,
'Cause I
you
feel
then
like that
continue
was
on
a
to the
factor.
scandal that was Suju being a graduation system group in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then we got rid
And
of that
the
really
family
fast.
was not the fan base was not having it.
Yep.
Not that SM has ever been able to put together a graduation system group ever.
Every
Look at
time they do
their-
it, it is just completely.
it falls through.
It just completely falls out. Like they throw it out the window immediately every time they
I
say
mean,
they're going to bring it
Isamon
back.
is obsessed
just-
with doing it for boy groups, so for some reason he's just continuously obsessed
But I mean,
with
just
trying
think
it
about
again.
look at Dream. He couldn't even do it with Dream, where he has a stable of 20-something boys.
I know.
And Dream is now the most fixed unit of that group.
Yep.
More people have left 127 than
Well,
left.
yeah, 127 has had more lineup changes than NCT Dream, which is pretty wild
Yep.
to think about.
NCT Dream just lost and then got Mark back.
And that's all we did with
That's
Dream.
all we
and
did
then,
with it.
And then
I
now
mean-
Dream is now just Dream.
But also just thinking about just this situation of like not having a day off in 2 years, like this
Like
was
that
old
sounds
K-pop.
illegal. Like that seems
That
like that should
does.
be illegal.
Getting
That is
kidney
very
disease, that's
illegal.
wild.
And gastritis because he's not allowed a day off in over 2 years is insane. That
Plus
they
the fact
were
that you
able
have
to do that.
plus the fact that you have to think about the fact that like now at least if you are a Chinese idol, there are other Chinese idols around. Like you can make friends.
Mm-hmm.
This kid had no friends.
Oh
Who
yeah.
was gonna like? There were no Chinese idols. There was no other
It
one.
was literally just him.
It was
and
him.
Considering the way that everything it ended sadly very poorly for him, given he had to sue SM Entertainment to leave.
Mm-hmm. So you'd think by this point, SM would have learned from their mistake about treating because I also know that in this situation specifically, there was also claims of different treatment
Mm-hmm.
because he was Chinese and the other members of Super Junior were Korean.
And at that point, there was only him as well, and so like
Yeah.
I feel like that was definitely the
Happening.
case there as well. Yeah.
And you'd think that a good 5 years later, they would learn from their mistakes. Turns out
No.
they did not. Well, we're gonna now talk about the Super Junior, not the Super Junior, the EXO situation, and you will hear a very similar
One could
story.
say it
Some
was
deja
an
vu.
exodus, if you will. It could be an exodus. An
Yeah.
exodus.
Exodus.
I mean, but like, is it a lie though? Is it a lie?
No, you are
There's
correct.
a
Consider
lot.
that is also like when the Exodus is when EXO started
Yeah.
falling apart as well, which is
It was
also
right
really
before
funny.
Exodus.
Albeit not
I mean,
completely falling apart. I'm
I
so
mean, let's
impressed
be
that they've still
honest.
been able to hang to like.
I mean,
still be
they
popular
did
and stuff.
lose 1/4 of their group within a year. So
I mean, if anything, the whole
When you
concept
start
of the
with
split
12, like,
subgroups fell
1/4
apart, if
is-
anything. But
Yeah.
the group
Oh,
itself
no,
still
that
continued.
subunit.
Yeah.
So, for people that are newer or that don't remember, EXO used to be 2 subunits. EXO used to be 2 separate groups of EXO-M and EXO-K. EXO-K being Korean, EXO-M doing the same songs, just in Mandarin, with different people.
Yes.
So, EXO-M consisted of Chris, Tao, Luhan, Xiumin, Chen, Lei. Thank you. Why? How did I forget the other Chinese?
The only Chinese member that's still in EXO.
Look, he hasn't been
Is
there
he-
in years. It's
I mean,
fine.
he's just. I feel like he's just there to write out the contract, and I feel like he's gonna bounce. once his
He
contract's
was in
done.
that new song.
He was.
He was in
He was.
Can't
He was
Fight.
still
He was
there.
green screened in, but he was
The
there.
green screened him in.
But I
But
feel.
that
I feel.
was
I feel like
EXO.
he's. I feel like he's just writing out his contract at this point. I feel like he's
Maybe.
gonna bounce.
Who knows?
Because
Who
he has
knows?
a big
But-
career in China at this point, so.
He does. It's
Huge.
very big.
Absolutely huge in
massive,
China.
massive.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. But yeah, so that was XOM. XOM just did the exact same songs that XOK did, just in Mandarin. But also EXO, for the most part, their title tracks were, other than like Mama and History, they were full membered because both Growl and Wolf were all of them together. So it's like,
Yes.
the full structure of that was always a little weird. I don't know.
I don't think SM entirely knew what they were doing with it or what
Exactly.
they wanted to do with them.
Because, like, the groups were constantly intermingling, but at the end of the day, K was always getting... Because K's albums would obviously sell more because they're Korean, they're available for a Korean market, and they're in Korean. If you're a K-pop fan, you're going to buy the Korean version. But technically, that's only supporting half of the group, while you had EXO. It's a weird situation. But you can sort of see where, like, XOM was treated a little differently.
I mean, heck, they even set XOM to actually the first KCON ever. I remember that.
Did. I remember
They
that.
sent them to the first KCON ever, and I think they might have just performed the songs in Mandarin there. But the people were satisfied there.
Probably.
They were satisfied enough.
Again, not saying that XOM, in the fans' perspective, was ever seen as lesser. But in terms of just looking at them on paper, XOK, I think simply because you're in a K-pop group and they're technically the Korean group, was always getting a bit more.
Oh, yeah.
And also their sales were always better, even though all the songs were sort of recorded by all the members. It's weird. It's a weird situation.
It is.
Yeah. For
So
sure.
it all started to real turn in 2014. So on May 15, 2014, Chris filed a lawsuit against SM to terminate his contract and alleged that SM disregarded his health, maintained unfair profit distributions, restricted his freedom, and treated him like a product rather than a person.
Wow, it sounds real familiar.
Yep.
Where have we ever heard this before?
Who's to say?
Hmm.
Then
It's like deja
then on
vu.
October. So that happened right after they produced Overdose. Like right after that video came out.
Yeah, that was right after they
That-
released that
That was
video.
right after Overdose.
I remember the
Yes.
fallout of that. Girl, the fallout was
yeah.
major.
The fallout was wild
The
because they were
fallout was
they were
major.
preparing for a tour. Then on October 10th, which I think is like right after the tour ended, Luhan filed a lawsuit against SM Entertainment to terminate his contract, citing health problems, and alleged he was treated different than the band's Korean members. Tao was absent during promotion of Exodus due to injuries, and on October 24th became the third member to file a lawsuit against SM Entertainment to terminate his contract. This followed social media posts earlier in the year where Tao's father posted on the Chinese social media Weibo expressing his wish for his son to withdraw from the group and return to China due to health issues and a lack of support for individual career development. SM responded to this legal action in a statement. Our company plans to use everything in our power, including both Korean and Chinese legal professionals and partners, to respond legally both in Korea and China in a multifaceted manner. We also plan to take legal steps to respond to Tao's illegal promotions and actions. Good God.
It's a lot. SM Entertainment will not ever give up on any three of them.
So Tao
Yeah.
left in 2015 right after they did Call Me Baby. So he basically stayed another year. So after a 3-year-long legal battle, SM Entertainment said that the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the country's largest label. The court ruled that the contract was still valid, although Tao scored a victory in a separate lawsuit in China in 2018. So the lawsuits with Tao were wild.
Yeah, that
because
varied
it
a
kept
lot.
going back and forth. There were lawsuits in 2 different countries.
Yep.
Because you had to deal with the Korean and the Chinese promotions. So the Tao lawsuits went on for years.
Forever.
And they went on forever, but I think in the end, Tao won in China and SM won in Korea.
Yes.
The Chris and Luhan lawsuits were much more simple. In 2014, Chris and Luhan filed their similar lawsuits to nullify the contract, but they agreed to compromise in 2016 after the court recommended reconciliation. SM agreed to continue to contract with Tao and Luhan until 2022 and take care of their management in South Korea and Japan, whereas in China they are under their own label. That is why Chris and Luhan have done jack shit outside of China. Sorry.
Yes.
I mean, I know Chris did do like certain singles.
Chris
with
did
certain...
a movie.
Chris
also did
like,
an American movie.
He did a
and also did a
single.
couple
He did a
singles.
couple songs too with like. He did some.
But I do still
collaborations
think
with
that
other
was
artists.
under his Chinese management.
Probably.
So I don't think SM
that
had
was
anything to do with that.
Yeah, I think that was
So
just
for the
outside
most
thing.
part, they will only be out of this contract. That SM still
The
has
contract is.
making money off of Chris and Luhan
Chris
till
and
this
Luhan
year.
are still under
SM
SM
artists.
contract
But is it until
right now?
Now.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
They
actually.
it will end this year,
Yeah.
essentially. Tao, I think, took much
I feel like
longer.
his is gonna end later, if anything.
His, I think, might end a little later, but for the most part, it is the similar deal where it's like China is himself. Outside of China, it is everywhere else. It is SM. But for the most part, all three of them, we'll talk about Chris later, but specifically Luhan and Tao are very, very popular, doing very well, thriving. So many dramas, so many singles. I'm very happy for both of them, honestly. For as much as people do say it was a shit move, that they betrayed the group, to be honest, if you're being treated like
No.
shit, you don't owe anybody any loyalty.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's like, at this point, like, I don't feel like defending a fucking multi-million-dollar corporation for suing these three artists who are citing health concerns and unfair treatment in their contracts. Like, that doesn't seem like it's the right move either.
And for people saying that, they continue to be artists in China, I'm like, yeah, under different management and doing
That's all
different
they
things.
were. That's all they could do at that point. They
Yeah,
could
and
only
also
do
that's
stuff
their
in China 'cause
job.
they couldn't do anything in South Korea anymore.
I mean,
So
frankly, they maybe.
that's all they could do.
To be honest with you, they maybe just only wanted to stick with China for the most part at that point.
And honestly, they're probably better off for it and probably making more money doing it, actually, and also probably doing what they actually would like to do. It wouldn't shock me if SM was preventing them from doing a lot of them became, they're very prolific actors in various Chinese dramas.
Acting, their own music, like
Acting. Their own
lots of
their own
acting.
solo music.
Yeah.
Even just all of that. Like, they couldn't do it in Korea. It's wild to me that people were just like, well, I think especially now we have a much clearer sense of K-pop idols and like what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I don't know if people were just slightly more blissfully ignorant
Mm-hmm.
or people just had more faith in the company. But to say that this is kind of what they had to do.
And
Like,
honestly, it's also considering the fact that, like, this has clearly happened before already as well. Like, we had
We
a
have
very
an
similar
example.
incident happen with another Chinese artist before all three of them decided to leave. Is also, like, very sketchy. And it's like, I don't feel like they're just doing it because they are interested in money and want better careers. I'm like, I'm sure that's part of it, but there's 100% other things going on there for why they wanted to leave so badly.
It's also wild to me because this continues to be a thing that happens to a bunch of Chinese idols just generally. And it can also be the money because they would probably make more money
If they get popular
China.
enough in
Yes.
K-pop, they also start gaining popularity in China, and then there is just more money available in like the Chinese media.
And also
like,
being a soloist and all of that, they wouldn't have to split anything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But generally speaking, there is so many claims of mistreatment, and to say it that, and the claims of mistreatment are now subsiding, which makes me think that like we are treating them slightly better.
because at least we haven't gotten anything out of like Wavy yet saying that. So
Wavy hasn't happened to that yet, and
so
also
maybe
a bunch
we're
of
getting slightly better.
and like a bunch of K-pop idols that when a group disbands will just go back to China. Look at Pinky from IOI in Priston. She went back to China. She's doing great.
Yeah.
There was no actual accusations of mistreatment, all of that. So it's like, it makes me think of just like SM continues to have this happen. Other agencies don't have that kind of reputation. And they also have Chinese idols. So SM, it's interesting. Some shit you hear.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Speaking of more stuff.
Yeah, speaking of, as like we said, going to be a very heavy SM Entertainment.
This is a huge scandal
episode.
too, actually, back in the day.
This is
was
a really
probably-
big one.
This was
because
a huge
yeah,
one.
It's also probably the most important one in terms of
just
lasting
K-pop
implication-
generally.
Lasting implication for every K-pop group. Every K-pop group you can think of was affected by this scandal. Before or after, this affected K-pop groups that had already been together before this.
Mm-hmm. And so this, we were talking about the JYJ TVXQ scandal. So for those other people who are also unaware or newer to K-pop, TVXQ was originally 5 members. It was Jaejoong, Yuchun, Junsu, Changmin, and Yoonho. They all used to be in TVXQ together. Also, I want to take this to clear up a very common misconception I often hear about TVXQ's name is that for some reason people are under the assumption that TVXQ as 5 members is DBSK, and then they changed it to TVXQ when they lost Jaejoong, Yuchun, and Junsoon. Absolutely incorrect.
No,
DBSK
it's always been
is just the
DBSK.
name that's the name they used to promote internationally in Japan. There's absolutely no correlation to them changing the name because the members left. Like, that's just not true.
In Japan, they're Tohoshinki in Japan.
Yeah.
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 Donban
And
Shinki in Korea,
that's
and
the
then
other thing with
Hongban Shinki, I think is the Chinese
yes,
name.
and that's the other thing of the fact that this is something that K-pop idols don't really do, but you have to remember TVXQ and BoA were like the first 2 big K-pop groups and soloists that actually attempted to do anything in the Japanese market. So they also did something that K-pop idols don't do as much now, which is fully adapt.
Yeah.
Like TVXQ, for example, fully adapted a different name for Japan. Now K-pop idols don't feel the need to do that. But that is because Japan was a completely new market that they weren't even sure that they were going to become popular in. It was just an adaptation reason because you sort of needed it more. I mean, TVXQ was like the first group that actually got a #1 in Japan and actually became successful in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, BoA as a soloist went first, but also she had to have massive amounts of training to be able to do that as well.
Yeah. So TVXQ
that's
has
what
always
happened.
been TVXQ. DBSK is their name that you promoted with in Japan. The same thing. They are the same thing. You can use them interchangeably. They refer to the same
You can still
group.
call, to this day, TVXQ, DBSK. It's
Yeah.
the same thing.
It's the same group. So this started in July of 2009, where Jaejoong, Yuchun, and Jinsu attempted to split from SM Entertainment, claiming that their 13-year-long contract was excessively long. Schedules were held out without permission of the members, and profits were unfairly distributed. Where have we heard all of these things before?
SM, you'd think you'd learn from. I mean, it's the same year. It's literally like 5 months before Hanggang would also allege the same thing.
Exact same reason.
The exact same reason.
But also added racism. But
also racism.
Yeah. So in October of 2009, the Seoul Central District Court granted the trio a temporary contract injunction, so they could no longer promote as a 5-member group, as TVXQ in Korea. And in November of 2009, Yoonho and Changmin released a joint statement in support of SM Entertainment and urged the other 3 to resolve their issues with the management company quickly because they wish to continue as TVXQ together. But there has been a really long legal battle, so they had to cancel this Shenzhen show that was scheduled for their Muradic tour. So they had to essentially end that whole concert early because of that. But despite of this injunction that they were allowed, the members of TVXQ, Jaejoong, Yuchun, and Junsu, still were able to maintain their activities as like a full group under AVEX's management in Japan. So they continued to release singles together until early 2010 over there. So it's going to get like really confusing because this is a very long legal battle that happened. So in April 3rd of 2010, AVEX, which is their Japanese management company, declared the suspension of TVXQ's Japanese activities, stating that all of the members are going to start pursuing a solo career. However, a week after that, AVEX announced the formation of a special unit with Jaejoong, Yuchun, and Jinsu, which will later be known as JYJ. When this caused Yoonho and Changmin's indefinite hiatus from music activities. So after that announcement that JYJ was forming, SM Entertainment filed a lawsuit against them to validate their contracts. So they're essentially trying to assert that they're still under SM Entertainment. And in June 2010, JYJ submitted a lawsuit against SM Entertainment to void their contracts.
We got competing lawsuits.
Yep. And following that, SM tried to denounce JYJ and their new entertainment agency, CJES, while Yoonho and Changmin remained completely silent throughout the legal proceedings. After several months of inactivity, Yoonho and Changmin made comeback appearances in August of 2010 for the Seoul stop of the SM Town Live tour, where they performed re-recorded versions of older TVXQ songs, and their performances garnered a strong supportive reaction from the audience, prompting Yoonho and Changmin's decision to continue TVXQ activities by themselves, which I kind of hate a lot. Every time I look back on the scandal, the more
it becomes
the
upsetting.
more I hate it. It becomes so much more upsetting.
It does, because all 5 of them together were so good at
So
singing.
good.
Love on the
So
Ice,
good.
so
Yeah.
good. Like, honestly, y'all should go back. Whoever hasn't done it yet, y'all should go back and listen to a lot of their songs
Look,
from
we've
2005,
talked about how
2009.
we
So
love
good.
that unit cover of
So
Love on
good.
the Ice. You know what's better than that cover of Love on the
The
Ice?
original
The original
Love on the
version of
Ice.
Love on the
It's
Ice,
so
because
good.
it's one of my
There
favorite
has
things
not
in the
been
world.
a group that has had this great of a singing ability in K-pop since then. I think personally, for the most part. For the most part, that
I
has
would
gotten
say
us
Shiny gives
successful.
them a run. I would say the only one that for me that gives them a run for their money is I do think Shiny.
And maybe 2 a.m. 2 a.m. has really good vocals as
2
well.
Yeah, but I can't do that many boring ballads.
True.
Marie. I can't.
True.
I can't do
Shiny's
that many
close,
boring
but I
ballads.
feel
Shiny.
like TVXQ, though,
I mean,
think
at
had
that
better
point, we're
singing
splitting
abilities.
hairs of whether Shiny or TVXQ has better singing
I
ability.
feel like
do
OG
think that you're-
TVXQ
it's
definitely
preference.
does.
It's preference,
Mhm.
personally.
I don't know, but
But
Yep. Yeah, that's it gives you a really like just icky feeling about it. Everything coming from Yoonho and Changmin is just like it's bad.
because it's the fact of the matter that these 3 aren't alleging. They're alleging that everyone is being treated like shit, and they're the only they're finally fed up.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact is, it also makes me wonder if K-pop fans have just sort of changed as a concept, because there is people now that will hate a K-pop company because a group is not successful, because a company can manage a group perfectly. They can give them songs, they can give them everything, but because timing, because of the people, they're very underappreciated.
Mhm.
And the fans will blame the group, they'll blame the company every time. The company's shit, the group's, the artists are great, they should leave the company, form their own company.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm reminded of this, where 3 members are alleging actual abuses and valid legal criticism,
Mhm.
and
these 2 members who decided to support the company release a song immediately after that's titled "Keep Your Head Down" as also oh boy.
and also re-record the old music just without them.
Yeah.
And somehow
Technically,
the
it's called
fans
Way
are
in
fully
Korean, I will
supportive.
say, but nonetheless.
But they also are the company is also the one that decides what the English version's called.
That's
and they
true.
Did
They
decide
did
that,
decide that.
that was what it was going to be called.
Yep, and it's just that seems like a little bit dystopian.
It's also one of the most aggressive sounding K-pop songs ever.
I do like that. I have to admit, I do
It's
love that
such
song,
a
though. I
spike
do
song.
really like that
It's
song.
good.
It's a great
It's
song.
good, but you cannot tell me it's not very
Oh,
pointed.
it's totally SM was definitely pissed about how that fell out. I will
SM
tell you
was
that.
pissed,
They
but
were
also
pissed.
as Kayla's gonna go on to talk about, this was fully a legitimate lawsuit.
It was. I am curious. The thing that still makes me question mark to this day is what the hell did they do to convince Yuno and Chenmin not to go against them?
To
for them?
stay?
Yeah. What the hell
To
did they
stay
do?
and to be so supportive of
What the
SM
hell convinced
Entertainment is
those
wild
two
to
to
I
me.
mean,
stay?
I have my theories.
Unless they must have had a good lawyer who told them just wait it out.
It's either that or they had such bad internal conflict that they absolutely despised the other 3. There must have been a clique. The 3 of them were a clique.
This could be I can see this. Because, again,
Those two
there
could have
is
been
more
yes men, and then the other three would have been like, fuck no. You know?
And also the fact of, at that point, if they get wind that the other three were probably more, there's always, again, if there is an internal conflict, SM might have been able to give them some promises.
Mm-hmm.
Promises of this or that, like, if they leave, you're the only two left. This group is super, because you have to remember, TVXQ was super successful.
Super popular, too.
So maybe they thought, well, the other three are leaving. Now we only have to divide the money between 2 and not between 5.
That's true. They
And
do get paid. They do get more.
Keep the name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yuno and Changbin keep the name.
They keep
keep
all
the
of their
songs.
fans.
They keep all of the fans, and they keep the SM money, the SM
Mhm.
backing.
Yep.
They can see how the lawsuit plays out, but they don't have to risk anything of their own.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But
And-
let's see how the lawsuit went down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
how did the
so,
lawsuit go down?
Essentially, it ended in 2012 with both sides reaching an agreement. And I wanted to I found this comment on an All K-pop article, I think, but because what happened is that apparently way after this lawsuit had even happened, some people had found like JYJ TVXQ's like old SM contract and like brought up all of the stipulations of it, and people were apparently saying that it's not a bad contract at all, and it didn't seem like that bad, and the three of them left just because they wanted more money and were greedy or something. And this person sort of explains why the court actually ended up ruling that their contract shouldn't be legal, like a legally binding contract.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is that it violates right to privacy because it established a quote-unquote dominant subordinate exclusive condition which would force the members to stay in the agency and obey everything that they said. Because of this, JYJ had a lot weaker negotiation capability, and they really had no choice other than to follow whatever SM Entertainment told them to do. And because it was so long, because they were in this like essentially subordinate like position with this 13 years, it can't be justified as a reduction of investment risk or anything like that. There's also, because it has such an excessive penalty for going against SM Entertainment, that also resulted in like a very stronger like dominant subordinate relationship, and it pushed a lot of the members into a more disadvantageous position whenever they would essentially disagree with anything SM Entertainment told them. So in simple words, that's like, if you want to like switch out all of that with like a slave contract, that's essentially what it is.
Essentially, this was
They
the
were
definition of a
essentially
slave
there
contract.
being told to do anything that SM Entertainment told them to do, and they had really little power to do anything other than that.
Yep. The other thing is that they also made almost no money.
Yeah.
That was the other thing, is that they were making SM so much money.
Which is also a continuous thing with these
They
like
were
acting
paid-
like these groups in general, even outside of Korea, like because a lot of it is
Yeah.
they're not involved with either writing or production, and that's where you get a
But
lot of money
even
made. They
then-
don't get money from that.
Even
So they get
then,
paid
Yeah.
minimum.
if you're reading this, we said that the group was paid $50K for every 500,000 albums
yeah,
sold.
exactly.
That means that each member got $10,000. They
Yeah.
had
That's not a lot of money.
50,000 collectively.
Yeah, that's not a lot of money.
No, and that also meant the individual album had to reach over 500,000
100,000.
before they got paid. This wasn't like a
Any.
continuous like collective. That was one album had to sell 500,000 copies, and then they would get paid money. Yeah,
yeah, and only one
One
of them
sold
did.
250, the other sold 250. They never got anything.
yeah. Only
Yes.
after they hit that milestone was when they would get paid any
The
money.
other
for that.
thing is that you have to remember that this is a very different, because K-pop fans now, they look at like, oh, 500,000 for a K-pop album, TVXQ will sell that easy. I'm like, this isn't like now where BTS is selling 1 billion copies of the album,
Exactly.
or like anybody can, and like we have like the top 10 groups selling 1 million copies per album.
Yeah,
Selling 1 million copies was like the pinnacle. Like that was the roof essentially. Oh, you sold 1 million? That's like insane. Because it was like TVXQ, and then years later EXO did it. And that was kind of it for a while.
Mhm.
yeah, exactly.
Those were the people that did it. Not like now where you're seeing like at least 5-6 groups a year have an album that sells 1 million copies.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So this was a lot of money. SM sucked.
They really sucked. And then it was essentially after this point where contracts like had essentially were at 7 years. After this point, like you couldn't have contracts longer than 7 years.
Although I have heard there have been alleged rumors, I think, very alleged
in the
rumors
Jessica
that they tried to like hide.
In the Jessica
yeah,
book.
the Jessica
In the
book that
Jessica
they
book.
extended
In the Jessica
subtly.
book.
Yes, in the Jessica book.
Where
According
you
to Jessica,
sign a 7-year contract and then you sign a 3-year extension on the 7-year contract
which is
at
the
the same time.
loophole. So it's like there's SM's loophole
Yeah.
right there. if it's true. If it's true.
But it is possibly the only controversy here that possibly did get a law passed.
It did get a law
essentially.
passed.
It's the only one that I can think of personally that got a law passed, which essentially means that you cannot have more than a 7-year contract, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So good for them.
Good for them.
But it also did we also want to talk about the fallout where they got blacklisted?
Oh, they did get blacklisted from...
It's one of so SM then proceeded to blacklist those 3 members, which is why for years you would not see any of the 3 of them on television,
No,
even though
'cause
they
SM
continued to be
Entertainment blacklisted them from
massively
television.
popular.
Oh yeah.
They were massively popular, but they never appeared on actual like broadcast television. It's insane.
Oh, yeah.
And then, like, actually, I forget if we mentioned it, but I know a couple of them end up having scandals down the line. But one more serious.
We talk about.
Do we talk about
yeah,
it in a
JYJ
future tier? Do we
Oh,
talk
yeah,
about this
they're
one or a
both
future one?
Specifics.
They're both in future tiers. The
Okay.
the miscellaneous JYJ
Yeah,
member
only 2 of them.
scandals.
Only 2 of them though.
Only 2 of them.
Yeah.
Junsu's kind of fine. Junsu's off playing Death
Yes.
Note and being in the Death Note musical and the Dracula musical like
Yes.
5 times.
He's
Yes,
fine.
yes.
He's doing great.
He's doing great.
But yes, we will get to those eventually.
And then, well, I guess it's not completely Scandal 3 with just the duo TVXQ because
The
Yunho.
duo of TV.
Because Yunho recently got into some trouble. Recently, he had a little slight COVID brothel situation, if you will. So
The
back
COVID
in
brothel situation.
so back in was it March last year?
This is 2020.
Oh, 2020, sorry. So back in
Yeah.
March in 2020, it was revealed that Yunho was being investigated by the police for staying at a restaurant in Gangnam until midnight in late February. And according to the social distancing regulations in Seoul at the time, because again, this was the beginning of COVID and everything was, a shit show, restaurants had to close at 10 p.m.
No, this was last year. Never mind.
yeah.
It was during Kingdom.
Oh,
That's
it
why
was.
it
Oh,
happened,
sorry. Yeah, it was last year
then
during
they
Kingdom.
had to edit
Yeah.
him out.
Yep.
So he was supposed to leave. He stayed longer, and it was reported that the restaurant in question had been an unauthorized adult entertainment establishment. Yeah, and he was in Kingdom. Sorry, got in trouble for it. had to
Him
be
and
blacklisted from that.
Changmin were the Kingdom MCs, and then they had to. This came out in the middle, like right at the beginning of filming, and so they had to
Right when they
immediately
only
remove him
filmed.
and edit him out of that.
Yeah, they had filmed, I think, the first episode and had to very hilariously edit around him.
Yes.
But it looks like he didn't get a criminal charge, but just had a fine for violating
There
the social
was an
distance
investigation,
regulations.
and I
Yeah.
don't think it ever led to anything.
I don't think-
So
Yeah,
he just
that
got
was
fined
nothing
for it for violating social
serious.
distancing stuff. But
Yeah, and I think he got fined more for the COVID aspect of it than he did for the fact that it was a quote unquote unauthorized adult entertainment establishment.
yeah,
Whatever.
brothels
Yeah,
and that
that
sort of
thing.
stuff are illegal. But I know that in Seoul they're still pretty abundant. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
True.
So surprise, surprise, men like to
Surprise,
do that sort of
surprise.
stuff.
Surprise, surprise.
Even you know.
Whoa.
But yeah. Anyways,
Who knows what it... Maybe he was just there for the massage.
I think he did. I think he did say that he did say in a statement that he was unaware that that was the type of place he walked into. But who knows?
Maybe
if
I
that's
don't
true.
know.
I
I'm sus of
don't want
that.
to-
Yeah, it's a little bit sus, but
But also, if it's all like,
Oh, I didn't know they
if
gave
it's
out
all above
special
board
massages.
and everyone's consenting,
I had no
why not?
idea.
Mhm.
who's
I
to
had no
say?
idea they gave out special massages. I don't know. I mean, maybe.
Maybe
but-
maybe he's not.
I'm
Maybe
kind
he
of
was there for
doubting
the-
though a
who's
little
to
bit.
say?
I'm kind
I
of
doubt it, but
Yeah.
like it could be.
Maybe there's potential.
Who are we to judge his character?
I don't know.
Other than-
But anyways, but it's not the
Now-
only COVID scandal on this.
No,
On
now
this
we get a
list.
very a COVID scandal that we tend to confuse with a different COVID scandal.
Mhm.
Are you talking about
So
the llama
we're on
one?
to the-
Yeah,
Yes.
alpaca.
Alpaca.
Gate.
But that
Alpaca Gate's on a
Gate's
different
different.
tier.
but that
Alpaca Gate's different.
but that doesn't involve idols, right? That's just a boy.
A couple, but they're not as like well known or important as these.
not
idols.
these idols.
I love how an alpaca, but anything. Anyways, continue.
The fact that Alpaca Gate is a scandal is hilarious.
I love it.
That's for another time.
This is specifically the 97 line COVID scandal. So, a group of 97 liners, which consists of BTS's Jungkook, NCT's Jaehyun, Astro's Cha Eunwoo, and 17's Mingyu, a group of friends.
A group of friends. Yep.
Which is they hang out.
Wild that that's a group of friends that exists.
Wild. I love that that's a group of friends.
I'm impressed.
So much.
impressed by Jungkook at this point that he's
That
able to
Jungkook was
spend
just
time with
able to
friends.
go out with them.
He has
is wild.
friends.
Yeah, he's just
he
thriving.
has time to do
He
that.
has friends.
He has
I mean, they
time.
all have friends. Good for him.
I mean, I'm
But
glad,
those
but
97
still.
That group of 97 liners went to an Itaewon restaurant and bar on April 25th of 2020. South Korea had just started to loosen up social distancing, though its officials still highly encouraged it. Then on May 1st, a man with coronavirus went to several clubs and bars in Itaewon, creating a cluster. Over the following weeks, concern mounted as new cases rose all over bars and clubs. Then on May 11th, the KCDC directed people who had gone to bars and clubs from April 24th to May 10th to stay home and contact public health center and get tested. By May 17th, the Itaewon-related cases were said to be contained by the South Korean president. And on May 18th, an article was released by Dispatch about the 4 idols that they had been at these clubs during that time period. A representative of the companies of the idols quickly responded, confirming the events, apologizing, and reporting that all tests came back negative. So in reality, none of these idols did anything illegal.
No, I think this got
fully
blown.
legal.
It got blown way out of proportion because they were definitely allowed to be out at the clubs. Had no idea someone there when they were at the clubs had COVID until way after they had even been there.
And also the fact that, like, they act because the man that had coronavirus was there after they were there for one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And two,
exactly.
They just did a blanket, like, hey, just in case he came before, let's just do a blanket statement.
Right.
Of,
Or other people
day
too.
to this
It might
day,
not be
just
just
to
got
give a
guy
wide-
anyways.
just to make sure everyone is safer, just to make sure that all of them are there. And also, like, it's not... They didn't go after after everything had begun to get shut down again.
No,
Everything
it was still
open.
legal for them to be out in a club, and I think that's what so many people misunderstand about it, is that it got blown into their being irresponsible about COVID. Well, in South Korea, COVID at the time wasn't that bad, and all of these clubs were still open and functioning.
Yes.
And yeah, you can stay home if you want, but it wasn't illegal. You could still go out and do it. So they were just there. And then
Yes.
the fact that there was a COVID case there after they won is like not at all their fault because they had no idea that was even happening. And then they tested and they were all negative and it's fine. It's like they really didn't do anything wrong about it.
Yes. The thing that people did also then get upset about was that they were like, oh, they were at this club, but they should have, they got tested negative, but they should have still quarantined because Eunwoo was having an Astro comeback at the time, so he did music shows, and then Jaehyun did have to MC Inkigayo. But let's be honest here. And then Jungkook and Mingyu just didn't apparently have schedules because I think they kept BTS in like a hypoallergenic bubble at the time.
Mhm.
Mostly.
Essentially.
Mostly.
For the most
He managed
part.
to get out and go to a club, but I mean...
Look, he wanted to hang out with some friends.
don't blame
Friends is a
him.
friend group as well. I think this got blown out of proportion because of who it is. If you look at...
I think
these-
because
like,
everyone
it
was so high, everyone related to this is so high profile. That's the
Exactly.
only reason why people cared about it so much.
just between the Jungkook of it all and, like, Eunwoo and all of these, like, these are not, like, unknown idols. This isn't a Nugu scandal.
This is like the most like high profile boy group members you could put together essentially.
Yeah, you're just like, yeah, no, they're friends. Which is wild to me that they're friends.
Mm-hmm.
I love this friend. The more I look at this friend group, the more I want to just be a fly on the wall so badly.
Just to see what's going on there.
Yeah,
I wanna
they're all
know.
Chingu.
I wanna know.
Chingu
Mhm.
deal.
I
They're
know.
all the homies, you know?
I bet you they have fun.
They probably do. They just
They'll
seem
just-
like it seems interesting because I also don't know how they would interact with each other at all.
Besides
either.
music shows,
No
really,
idea.
that's really the only way they could have been
But
introduced
like
to each other.
they're friends outside of this, so like
Yeah.
I think it's like their personalities just don't. Then again, their personal personalities are so different than probably what we.
Than what you are allowed, like we see of them anyway. Yeah.
I love this. I like that we're like this is not a scandal, but like this friend group is amazing.
Yes, it
That's
was a
really
scandal.
the-
It was a scandal because people tried to make it into a scandal, but it like really is not really much of anything.
I don't.
And
care
hell,
about
honestly,
the
I don't blame them
scandal
for going out to the damn club, especially having to be on lockdown. They want to have
Yep.
fun and interact and drink some damn beer and listen to some music and maybe shake their ass to some music. I don't fucking blame them, honestly.
Then again, I do feel like those three were just drinking there. I don't think that they can really be that partying.
maybe,
that,
well,
that
I mean,
wild.
maybe just drinking, but they just wanted to chill. They want to hang out and chill in
Mhm.
public. Fuck
Yep.
it. I don't
They
blame
should
them,
be able
you
to
know?
do this.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're gonna have a really quick scandal.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna continue to go through SM Entertainment still. But this is the Taeyong scamming, and this is just a pre-debut thing where Taeyong had allegedly staged a number of scams on an online trading site, through which he used false advertising and received money, but never like sent out any items, and sent out defective products to people, which is not great for him.
But also, I think he was like 14.
He was definitely a child when he did it. Also, it was like way it was like this was early NCT days as well. So he was like I think either just debuted or even about
No,
to
this was
debut.
like
And so there was that. It's really no one like even really remembers that was a thing that happened.
no.
But
It's kind of just it was one of those things where like if you were there, you remember people being like super invested in it for some reason.
right.
Oh, I
And
remember
now
that.
it's just like that happened.
I mean, no one cared because, I mean, he hasn't been exposed of doing it still, but he was probably just a kid who wanted to have some money for
was a-
whatever and thought
He was
about
a stupid.
and
I mean, again,
decided to scam people
again,
just for some money.
is this a good thing?
No,
he
it's not
did?
a good
No.
thing, but
Do I
No.
think he's probably been reprimanded enough,
probably.
like
Yeah.
through life? Yes. It's not like he was like stealing identities and like draining
it was
credit
like he
cards
was running
here.
like a fake eBay site essentially, and he just probably I don't even think he probably did it that often either, and has probably already
No.
like had to pay back people for it anyway. So
Oh yeah.
He probably just did it as a dumb kid just to make a quick buck on things. Because who knows? Maybe his parents
Mm-hmm.
didn't have extra money, or maybe he just was all like, "Fuck it, I want to get money on my own."
Or
somehow,
maybe he
and-
was kind of a stupid
Or
asshole
s-
kid,
yeah,
which a
that
lot
too.
of kids are
a
stupid
lot
assholes.
of, yes,
Yeah.
surprise alert! A lot of kids are stupid assholes as a kid. So
Yep. And that doesn't mean they can't grow as people.
yep.
Like, not saying he's a stupid asshole now. I'm assuming he's, like, fine as he's a fully adjusted adult.
But yeah, I don't like judging people for stuff they did when they're a literal child. Because that's
Doesn't seem
You just
productive.
don't. You just
I
don't.
mean,
have,
unless
like,
it's something
you
serious, like you hear about
Again,
child
unless-
murders. Unless
yes.
it's something like
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
then
yeah,
that's
yeah.
a whole other different story. But
Again, unless, like, we're dealing with some irreparable damage,
Mhm.
either emotionally or physically, sure. But for the most part, this seemed like a bad thing. Obviously a bad thing. But not like...
It's not like a world-ending thing or anything.
Yeah.
It's,
No.
it's fine.
all right, and on to. I remember this being so freaking entertaining. It was the gossip girls.
This
gossip
is
girls.
also, I want to point out that a lot of these scandals happen around the same time. Like, for
They
example, the
did.
beginning of the JYJ scandal happens around when Gang was also leaving. This also is happening around the same time as Chris leaving.
There was
EXO.
there was some interesting tea that year.
SM
goes
tends to
through a
have
lot.
like a lot of things happen at the same time.
Very conveniently. Very conveniently. So this is, I guess, the story about how Jessica left SNSD. And
Left,
well,
quote unquote,
left, quote unquote.
Forced, quote
Apparently,
unquote,
allegedly was kicked out, but it was a
kicked,
whole last
quote
scandal.
unquote,
Never
a lot of things.
But either
There's
way,
so many rumors.
it all started that Dispatch was all. It was explained in Dispatch that, of course, it involved Jessica and SM Entertainment, and Long before she was leaving, allegedly, Jessica had told her fellow members that she wanted to continue her business. Okay, cool. And that she could...
As a lot of people do have
surprise, she wants to make her own
projects.
income, and that she could get married if she was no longer an SNSD member anymore, which, you know what, probably could be true, too, as well, because, hey, you're not an idol anymore. You have time to date people. And also, Jessica, at the time, aspired to continue her studies in New York, and she even hinted that she couldn't do this anymore, aka being an active member of Girls' Generation. So Real SamCon, a trusted internal information source, explained that Jessica was initially supposed to go on hiatus after Girls' Generation finished their Japan Dome tour on the 24th, but allegedly she got an email saying that she was no longer a member of Girls' Generation. And SM released an email message saying like, "Hello, this is SM Entertainment. After discussing with Jessica, who has been artist under SM Entertainment this past while, we have decided to go our separate ways for the progress of each. Please cheer on Jessica, who will be starting a new beginning." But to clarify a little bit more, essentially, I think this was before Catch Me If You Can. They did promotions on that.
Yes.
And there was a whole thing about a music video
that has Jessica in it.
There's a whole version of her in the music video. There's like, she alleges that she was, they all gained up in her, kicked her out because of her, her wanting to be continuing her fashion thing. It's a very much a she said, SM Entertainment said scenario, I think. However, SM Entertainment did keep her on for a while. I think she was part of SM Entertainment, but she was just kicked out of Girls' Generation, quote unquote, kicked out, quote unquote, forced to leave Girls' Generation. She stayed at SM, I think, for a couple more years, and then they parted ways. And then, of course, as Sammi has detailed in a whole ass episode, Jessica wrote a book that I think can be very highly interpreted as her
I have so many opinions about
her experiences in the industry.
It's an autobiography.
Having read that book, can I get into my conspiracy theories about this fucking scandal?
Yes,
please.
Yes.
I genuinely in my heart of hearts, because this was did any of you hear the rumor that this was an internal conflict?
Yes.
More so than there's a massive amount of rumors that this is more of an internal conflict than an SM conflict. SM was sort of just like sitting back and watching this play out because they're like, I don't know, your girls figure it out. And to be honest with you, I believe it, because Jessica has hinted so clearly in that book that girl groups are like, it's some petty high school bullshit. And honestly, I could believe it.
And I mean, based on other scandals,
who was wrong, any of the things.
Yeah.
There are the people, like, there are K-pop groups that seem like coworkers more than, you've ever seen the, this looks like a family, this looks like a group of coworkers.
Yeah.
SM groups have this weird tendency to look a lot like coworkers, with exceptions. But
yeah.
A lot of them look like coworkers.
A lot of them do, I feel like.
And then some of them look like coworkers that turn into family when a bunch of them leave. Like, I think Super Junior. Current Super Junior seem like they all like each other.
They've admitted,
but current Super Junior's a lot of people that have left.
Current Super Junior, though, too, has admitted that they fought a lot. So they were open about that over time.
But also family fights a lot, too.
They've also been, together for so friggin' long now as well, and have lost a bunch of people along the way.
So I think at this point, Shiny seem like family. Everyone else
at this point, Shiny does seem like
it's
family.
A little bit questionable.
aespa could potentially be close, but who knows? Honestly,
I don't get those vibes.
I got none of that now.
I get none of those vibes.
Probably not. Though.
I don't get any of those vibes. Girl Generation never gave me those vibes.
I think it also just could be the way SM just probably teaches them how to interact with each other or interact on camera.
Also does seem like weirdly Dream gives me vibes, but I think that's also because they were so young and they're friends.
My thing with NCT is I think the units
seem like
together seem a lot closer when you put all 23 NCT together.
Of course they're not.
That is literally just coworkers.
A group of coworkers.
But of course they're not going to be. They're not going to be though.
They don't know each other.
There's so many of them. They're not going to be all that close. It's just like the inevitable.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen. They're gonna be all at minimum coworkers with each other. And plus, the oldest is Tail. He's a 94 lighter.
Yeah.
What the youngest one
adult.
is my
Jisung.
brother's age. He's like that's 2002.
Jisung is like 2002.
Yeah, Jisung's 2002.
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
huge age. Like
That's a
Tails,
huge
Tails
age
only
gap.
2 years older than us. Like,
Tails an adult.
like yeah, that's like that compared to someone my
but
brother's
technically,
age.
so
yeah.
Jisung's also an adult. But a
Jisung
different
is still
level
an
of
adult, but like a baby
But
adult.
it's a totally
Like a
different
small adult.
stages in adult life, you know? Like they're not gonna
Yeah.
like they're not
But-
most likely not going to relate
Here's
to
the
each
thing.
other.
Overall speaking, I think it's also just amount of time spent together. They don't spend enough time together to actually be a
don't.
group of people that a family. But to go back to the girl generation bit, it does also seem like there could have been a lot of catty bullshit happening.
I wouldn't be surprised.
At least Jessica believes that there was a lot of catty bullshit happening.
Whether she was causing it or not.
That happens with a lot of girl groups generally. I mean, that's
Yes.
just what's gonna happen. You're gonna putting teenage girls in a dorm together. It's like gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Girls get
like,
catty.
Again, whether or
Girls
not
get catty.
Jessica was like innocent or not in any of these situations, I don't know. The book tends to make it seem like Jessica, but also Jessica wrote the book.
Well,
I don't
I think
know.
she probably had a
But
ghostwriter too. as
She's
well.
not gonna say again.
She definitely had
yeah.
a ghostwriter. But
Again, Jessica's ghostwriter wrote the book, but overall, I don't want to put that much. But overall, we can't. Like, she's never gonna put herself as the villain.
No,
Yeah.
of course
So,
not. You're never
who's
the
to
villain
say
of
if
your
there
own
was ever a
story.
villain?
You're never the villain of your
But
own story.
there is the rumors that the girls had to vote to kick her out,
Yeah, there's,
which
yeah.
apparently. Then
I
there's
would,
always.
I would believe that happened. Like that doesn't.
I would
seem, like,
believe it,
wrong
but like
for
we don't
me,
have
yeah.
any proof of any of it.
And who knows if
Like, it
anyone's
seems
gonna
just like a
actually ever
very-
admit to what happened. They're probably
No,
just gonna
because
keep
then
it
you
private.
have the fact that current girl generation, which quote unquote current, because they haven't been together in years, but they're still technically together, consistently says that they are 8 members. Conveniently, even though like 4 of them decided to leave SM, which now is
Yeah.
very conspicuous that the only person you are deciding not to mention is Jessica, who very clearly has stated she didn't want to leave.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, clearly
Interesting.
dynamics between
the rest
Jessica
of these
and the
people
other
made the
members.
choice
Yeah.
to leave.
Yeah.
The rest of these people made the choice to leave. Jessica didn't want to leave, but you're still choosing to ignore that she was ever a part of this group.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Clear,
Nothing
the way
happened,
I see it,
I guess. I guess it was all clear and chill, I
yeah,
guess.
clearly things between, I feel like things between Jessica and the girls at some point, for whatever reason, ended poorly. That the other 8 of them all somehow collectively decided that this just was not going to happen anymore for whatever reason. You know, who knows what? Maybe it was justifiable, maybe it wasn't, but they all still seem to be, the 8 of them still seem to be pretty close with each other either way, so.
It's interesting in a way, yes and no, because again, you always have the rumors of how the divide happened about who was on Jessica's side, who wasn't. It's just a very weird situation, and I do
Yeah.
think that it did come down to more of an internal conflict than an external conflict.
But yeah, so yeah, the Jessica saga just shall continue to remain a mystery, I guess,
Yep.
essentially.
We'll never know. We could only know with vague
But I remember that being so
vague plot points in
huge.
Jessica's second book.
I just remember that being so freaking huge though when
It
that
was
came
such
out.
a
It was such
massive
a
deal.
drama.
It was such a massive deal. I mean, all of these were massive deals, but this was like one of the ones where I remember.
I mean, it is the
happening, and
nation's
it's
girl
wild.
group, quote unquote, at the time.
It is,
so.
but like this happened. Also, this happening at the same time that the EXO situation was happening.
That's
They were
true.
having a
That was
time.
that was
It
wild.
They were having a time.
That was a lot.
in
a
2014.
mess.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And now I guess on to something a little bit more.
Now we're going
serious.
back to an EXO situation.
Mhm.
A more serious situation.
Chris. Oh, Chris.
Oh, the Chris of
This
it all.
is technically not a K-pop scandal because by this point Chris was not a K-pop. How does one categorize
Chris was in a
Chris?
K-pop group, so he's
At
a
some
K-pop.
point in
He's
his
an
life.
ex-K-pop idol. It's whatever.
And also, this is a scandal that K-pop news outlets have sometimes covered, but don't cover enough, so people only get about half the story. I follow enough, like, actual, like, Chinese news sources for Chinese actors and idols, so, like, I get... The way this was covered was very interesting and very different in both sides, because it's interesting. So, on July 8th of 2021, I apologize for all the pronunciation beforehand. Du Maozhu, a 19-year-old Chinese college student, posted allegations online accusing Chris Wu of a pattern of sexual assaults involving multiple women, some underage, while they were unconscious or under the influence of alcohol. Through the Chinese social media platform Weibo, she stated she was raped under intoxication on December 5th, 2020 at the age of 18, and that she speaks for at least 7 other victims, 2 of whom were minors at the time of the crime. The allegations were denied by Chris. The alleged sex crimes are currently under investigation by the Beijing Public Security Bureau and other authorities. Chris was essentially dropped by everything. Everything dropped him. He's a brand ambassador and suspended by anything that was going to give him an endorsement. He was detained by police in July of 2021 and then arrested in August on suspicion of rape. This was a massive story when it came out.
Yep.
Because there were allegations from so many people. It is some of the girls were actually some of the contestants from Chuang 2020, where he was a judge.
It also spawned a whole cluster of articles on whether or not he was going to get the death penalty in China,
which
as
it's
well.
possible. It's still possible.
Yeah.
It's still possible for this type of crime in China to get the death penalty. He is still in prison to this day. There has been no, trial set.
Legal proceeding updates, there hasn't really been a lot
There hasn't
of that,
really been that many. But for the most part, this is sort of where we are now. It sort of went in the direction of, this all comes out, Chris denies, every brand, drops him immediately, continues to deny, then he gets arrested, and now he's just in jail. There have been multiple allegations that people thought that they saw him in prison, and that's, who knows?
They thought
He's
they
just
saw
been in jail
him
for over a year. No, they thought that they saw him being transported from, around, so people are always, keeping an eye to see if they see him. We haven't seen him at all since August. And for a very recent update, which happened this year, on the 2nd of March, there is a new audio that was leaked on Weibo, where the original girl, Do Maoju, is apparently saying she signed with a company for 20 million yen, which is about $3.17 million last summer, to pretend to be a Chris Wu rape victim and to gain money and fame. And then they announced that they would, and then it was allegedly, that's what this audio is saying. That
it's
this is
I think it's her friends are talking about it. And then their friends are gonna expose her for it because they have legitimate evidence, supposedly.
But that legitimate evidence has never come out other than this leaked recording.
That is
this
quite
leaked recording
origins.
Is very it is just audio. There is no video accompaniment. There is nothing else. So now everyone, because now that I've seen it, a lot of people are see, he's innocent, and I'm not necessarily, because this is an audio of suspicious origin.
For one person, who knows? But for others, it still could be very legit,
But also the fact of even this audio is questionable. Who knows where it came from? Because the girl has said that it's not true, and who knows?
And it's who even knows if it's going to play any significant
part on the case? And also, who even knows if it's her in the audio? Because the audio is not great quality. And also, it could be a lot of people.
Yeah.
But, that's where we are right now with this situation. Chris is still in jail. There's been no updates.
Nope. So we're just
we'll see how this plays out.
See where that happens and everything.
Yep.
He could die. Who knows?
He could be given the death penalty. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. To move on to our last SM entertainment scandal of this tier.
And this
finally.
might be even the least impactful.
It's not. It's probably more impactful than Taeyong, but not super impactful. But this is Lucas of NCT and Wavy. So there have been several online posts from alleged former romantic partners of him who claim that, among other things, that he has abused his identity as a star and a celebrity in order to sleep with them, and then also cheated on them while supposedly dating them as well. So essentially just being overall douchebag
Chris
person.
was a playboy.
Yeah, playboy.
So a fuck
Chris
boy,
is
a really
rich,
famous
very
fuck
much.
boy.
Fuckboy,
Yes.
essentially.
And a lot of the allegations that were aimed at him got very convoluted the more that they spread across social media. There was allegations from at least one South Korean person and at least one Chinese individual who shared stories about him specifically, that they had been in apparent romantic relationships with him because they had been fans of him, but then were claiming that he took advantage of them both romantically and financially, saying that he had both cheated on them and abused their feelings for him in order to have personal gain for himself, which Lucas got put on hiatus, essentially. He wrote an apology. SM Entertainment put him on a hiatus, suspension from all activities, and that's kind of still where he's at right now.
And we literally haven't seen him since.
We have not seen him at all.
I was so excited because we were gonna get Jalapeno.
Yes, and then poor
I was
Henry
so
got left
excited.
out in the dust because Jalapeno couldn't get released.
Exactly, because last year was when Wavy was doing their unit songs.
Mm-hmm.
So you had the ballad from like Zhaojun and Kun. You had Low by like Ten and Yang Yang.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those songs were slight disappointments to us.
Yes.
And then we were gonna get Jalapeno, which sounded great from Lucas and Henry, and we didn't get that one.
Mm-hmm.
I was so upset.
Oh, apparently, a month ago, apparently Lucas posted a picture on Instagram. It's of a sunset. That's it. That didn't have a caption, but that's what we got of Lucas right now in a most recent update. He has posted
alive.
a picture on Instagram that does not have him in it.
Okay.
Was it just the "I'm alive" Instagram photo?
I think
essentially?
I think it's literally
testing the
just
waters.
a sunset over the water. Like there's
It's
no
testing the
caption.
waters to
He's
see
not
the-
in it. It's just a black and white picture of a sunset over the ocean,
Huh.
supposedly.
All
Look,
right.
let's be honest. The man is out here just trying to test the comments to see how bad the comments
It's got
are
almost
on
a
his.
million comments on it.
Exactly. Or the comments are good or bad, but
They're
it's gonna-
happy he's alive.
See, it's great.
Yeah, but I mean,
Gotta
don't do
test out the
stupid
comments
shit when
with-
you're famous,
slowly bring
because
them
your
back.
dumbass
Yeah, and
will
it's
be
like
exposed.
this is just like him being like a
Again,
shitty person,
This is just
essentially.
him
And a
being
shitty
person.
boyfriend.
Nothing illegal has happened.
He
He's
hasn't
just a
done
shitty
anything
boyfriend.
illegal. He's just a fuckboy, and that's like where that's at. Yeah.
And while it is
Hopefully, he becomes a
morally
better
unethical to be a
boyfriend
fuckboy-
from this. I don't know.
Yeah, while it is morally unethical to be a bad boyfriend, it is not illegal to be a bad boyfriend.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, he becomes a better boyfriend. I mean, that's pretty much what we can say from this. I
Probably
guess.
should also stop dating his fans.
That
as
too.
well.
Don't date your
Probably
He
do
would
fans.
the best.
stop that.
Speaking
Speaking
of
of that.
which, dating fan.
Speaking of that.
Speaking of dating,
Y'all
your
did talk
fans-
about this in the FNC thing, but we shall rehash it. So day 6 / and flying. A couple band members trying to date fans, I guess. So the 6th member, the day 6 member? Yeah, the day 6 member. So Jun Hyuk was a keyboard and a vocalist in day 6 in the very beginning. However, his contract was canceled on February 27th of 2016 for not obvious reasons at the time. But a few months later, it was revealed that the reason why he was departed was because of, I guess, his misconduct, because he decided to date someone, because the contract rules stipulated that none of them should date for about 3 years. He did date someone, but it was also one of his fans, and he apparently also allegedly shared sensitive information about the group, to which the said girlfriend decided to publicize online. Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, is it kind of dumb that JYP has a rule that they shouldn't date for 3 years?
Yeah, JYP
I would
is
say yes.
pretty publicly has a 3-year dating ban, which is, it's weird, but it's a thing that they have as a company and have had for
and have
Yeah,
quite a
they've
long
still
time.
have
It's,
now.
yeah,
They're one of the few that I think still has a
dating ban.
Or at least that's well known
traditional,
to.
like traditional dating ban.
Mhm.
Don't know why.
At least they're
but,
the
yeah.
only company that like very publicly still has a dating ban.
Yeah.
I'm actually not sure if they do anymore. I guess because I haven't heard anything about like any of their new groups talking about it before. Like,
I mean,
they normally do, so
Twice
maybe
definitely
that's
had
there,
that.
Maybe it's not.
Twice
Twice
had
definitely
that,
did,
yeah.
but I don't know if
Twice at
any
this
groups
point was
past
Twice at this
have
point
it.
was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
That's true.
Because I don't know if Stray Kids or ITZY had it, but they're also at like 3 years now, so like it wouldn't even matter anymore.
No, the
So-
only one it would matter for is NMIX, and to be
And
honest with you, it depends.
extraordinary heroes,
Extraordinary
whatever.
heroes.
Yep. But yes, I heard that relationship that he was supposedly in was very bizarre because it was like the girlfriend made like essentially a couple's Instagram account and would post things about him and the
fantastic.
band on it pretty publicly that he would share with her, and that's essentially why he got caught, is because the girlfriend was posting publicly online about
But also,
it.
he's an
Again, I
idiot
think
for
with a
sharing
lot of
that
these
with
dating-
her, too.
Again, a lot of these
Oh,
dating
yeah.
bans aren't so much, hey, don't date. It's
Don't get caught
don't
dating.
date publicly
Yeah.
and don't get caught. Because genuinely speaking, especially for like us, for the idol groups, a lot of times it's the fact that they don't have time to date.
Exactly.
Like, with what time we're doing 8 comebacks a year. But for the bands, it's different. Don't get caught, and no one will care.
Yep.
And then, of course, we have from Enfine, Kwanjin. I know you guys also mentioned prior in the FNC company review thing about him and his little scandal. But I guess which essentially was he was caught dating a fan, or found to be dating a fan, I think, what, a year and a half in from when he was started in End Flying, and then he
when
or
was
something
this?
like that.
It was hang on.
Or was it
I'm
3
trying to
years
figure out
in?
how
Was
much-
it 3 years in?
It was 3 because it was about a year after they came back after they added Hwaesung, so it would have been 3 years after their official debut at that point.
Yeah. And I know at that point, it was kind of like he decided to leave for, to protect the image of the group, blah, blah, blah. And it ends up marrying this fan because the fan was in charge of managing a fan site / some
surprisingly.
other fan
Right,
thing.
right.
And so, so power dynamics. But I guess according to this other anecdote, he allegedly dated fans since his debut and had sexually harassed fans at the group's fan sighting events. And I guess because someone revealed this online, the poster included personal anecdotes of the member making sexually offensive comments to fans, as well as objectifying them by evaluating their faces and bodies. The post went on to accuse Kwanjin of speaking ill of his fellow flying members, his company, and fans. Blah blah blah. So I guess a little bit
I
more.
did find an update to that pretty recently about the sexual harassment allegations. He apparently took all of those people to court and won. That they were all essentially
Fantastic. So
for I don't know what they with the official term, but for slander
Defamation?
or whatever, defamation. Yeah, so he won all of those lawsuits.
So I guess legally he didn't do
Did
that.
he sexually harass them?
Legally he didn't do that. Apparently, we'll go
Yep.
with that. So a little bit of that, but kind of fair why he was kicked out. Yeah, same thing with Jun Kyuk.
I think it was mainly the dating reason, because he was always very strongly denying anything about sexual harassment. So he, I think, ended up getting kicked mostly for the dating the fan.
Yeah,
aspect of it all.
if it's fair because of the power imbalance and how that looks and how that comes off. I get that. I get why
It comes
that
off real
ultimately-
weird.
Yeah. But I guess that's it from that
date
end.
your
A
fans,
dating-
everybody.
Don't date your fans.
Don't date your
It's not a good
fans.
idea.
Yep.
Don't date your boss. Don't date your fans. Don't do that.
Yep.
Yep. So this is Cube Entertainment and all the abuses that they've
Just
done.
Cube Entertainment as a whole.
Cube Entertainment, a shit company.
Just an absolute
Begin.
shit show of a company.
We're only gonna hit the highlights right
You
now.
really
We're
could
not
just
gonna
sit
do
back
all
with
of
the
them.
popcorn, just
Yeah.
eat and learn about all this because it's just drama. It's like a reality TV show. Honestly, you just go, all right, spill the tea.
So let us begin. In the beginning.
In the beginning,
Beast.
there was Beast.
There was Beast. So Beast, as a collective group, leaves. They decide not to renew their contract with Cube Entertainment and leave collectively as a group. Cube then has their name trademarked so that they have to change it. So when they set up Around Us Entertainment, they have to change their name to Highlight. And Cube then announced that they're going to be making a new boy group that will promote using the name Beast, and also for some reason include Hyunsung, who had left Beast years prior.
Yeah, it was wild. This was an absolute wild a string of events to follow.
Hyunsung then says that he had never heard of this before. Cube never follows up with this plan. Hyunsung sounded genuinely confused.
Hyunsung posted on Instagram and he's like, I have never been informed of this plan in my life. Like, what are you talking about?
Someone at the Cube statements went rogue and was like, yeah, well, we're gonna make a better Beast. with, you know...
With Hyunsung
With
is going to be
Hyunsung
there
again,
now.
and
Who
We're
Let's
was
bring
so
him back.
petty on Cube's PR end of things? Because seriously, the
It's so
petty level
petty.
is high.
It's so petty. I
And
love
that was
it.
really just like a slap in the face to highlight as well, because they had also released a statement saying that up until that point in time, they were still in like trademark discussions with Cube,
Yeah.
supposedly. And then they were
They
just like,
wanted
no,
their
we're
name
not
back."
going to do that.
Yeah, and it's not like they were trying to just... Because, again, this wasn't them leaving collectively. They just didn't renew a contract.
Mhm.
That's what happens in contract renewals.
Yep.
You can leave.
You can't
the
leave. You
time
don't
when
have
you
to
leave.
resign the contract. You can just
Yep.
leave.
All right. So then, the big one.
They
In
kinda don't.
August 2nd of 2018, photos of Hyuna and Pentagon's Edon, at the time Edon, was released. Cube Entertainment denied the dating rumors. However, Edon and Hyuna did an interview later that day where they admitted that they've been in a relationship since May of 2016 after they got to know each other through their project group Triple H Promotions. The company responded to Hyuna's confirmation of dating by canceling all previously planned performances for Triple H, on-air appearances, fan events, including fan meetings that was scheduled for the next day. Petty as fuck.
So petty. Then it was the most pettiest thing they could have ever done.
It's like, it's full petty university, everybody.
Mhm.
Fans were divided on the reaction. Some called for Edon to be removed from Pentagon. Others were focusing on how the company was mistreating them after the release of the scandal rather than their relationship. On September 13th, Cube Entertainment announced that they were terminating the contracts of Hyuna and Dawn, citing that they could not maintain trust with them. Okay.
Oh.
However, the company announced that they would still remain
Oh,
in discussion with both of them until further notice. Cube Entertainment cited loss of trust as a reason. After much deliberation, we've concluded that the trust between the company and the artists has been damaged to a degree that cannot be restored, leading us to believe expulsion is necessary, is the official statement
Ugh.
given by Cube Entertainment of Hyuna's departure.
God.
It's just like, oh, it's so
It's so
bad. They
petty.
freaking-
Well, if anything, those two got the last laugh because, bitch, they're engaged right now. Woo!
I
They
mean,
are.
they're living their best lives
They're
and making
releasing
the worst
like
music of their
they're making
career.
terrible couple music together, but they do look like they're thriving.
They
They're-
seem
they're
happy,
having- they're
which, you know
having-
what, is great, you know. Who cares about making so much
Yep.
money as long as
I'm
you're
Yeah,
happy
like
happy?
their
for them.
relationship is like really cute. It's like a very cute, like
It's a
public
very
like
cute
relationship.
relationship.
I just don't enjoy the
I
music
think
that they're making
artistically
together.
they
Yeah,
need
the,
some
mu-
help.
the music so
Artistically,
the music
they
needs to be
need a
fixed.
third
The
wheel.
music needs to be fixed, but
But other than that,
Artistically,
they're
they need a
thriving.
third
They
wheel.
look like they're having a great time.
it's like they thinking they Beyonce and GC, honey. You haven't gotten up to that musical caliber yet. If you
Oh,
put
yeah.
some
Oh,
energy into
no.
it, get some good producers, I think you can. But they need to work
Maybe
on that.
we'll get there someday. Yeah,
Maybe.
Maybe. Or maybe it's better that they're soloists.
Yeah,
they
that
do
too.
fine. They do better as a soloist, I think.
Yeah.
rather than their group music. But
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So that was a terrible way to...
They
That's
dragged
such
it
a
out for so
terrible
freaking
way.
long.
It was so
too.
petty too, all because they
This-
both personally
Look.
announced that they were dating, and then they're just
Yeah.
like, "No, how dare you do
Like,
that?
they can't fucking do this.
How dare you?"
And also they dragged this out so long because we discovered they were dating in August. They were not kicked out till October.
Yeah, they took
That's
so
so
fucking
long.
long.
Oh yeah.
Just do it. If you're gonna kick them out, do it.
Mhm.
Don't drag this out for months.
Oh yeah.
So now we go on to a different scandal.
The most recent Cube Entertainment scandal.
Oh god, yeah. So Soojin recently has been kicked out of G-Idol, sorry.
Yep, that was I think a really. I thought she had already been kicked out of Cube and G-Idol, but apparently not.
She'd been kicked out of G-Idol. She was now no longer in Cube.
Yeah, so I don't know why we have to drag that out so much, but they did.
Nope. So, she'd been on hiatus since March of 2021 after several allegations that she was bullying classmates during her school years at Wow Middle School surfaced. On an anonymous online forum, Soojin's accuser posted that her younger sibling was violently bullied by the K-pop star and wrote that while she feels bad for the other members of G-Idol for speaking up, she can no longer keep her silence as she watches her bully be idolized. Several stories came out of Soojin's bad girl behavior in school, also began popping up at the same time. This includes accusations that she defaced a classmate's coat with a marker, scolded a peer in gym class, forced a friend to memorize a choreography for their graduation, smoked, drank a lot of alcohol, and rode a motorcycle. A deed that is seen as mischievous and dangerous, especially for children, and also illegal because
she has no license. Yeah,
she has no license.
But I mean, it does. It does match up with stupid teenage behavior, though. Unfortunately,
True.
Like this is believable
Fair.
stupid teenage behavior.
Also, to be honest, she debuted relatively young in G-Idol. Who was driving this motorcycle? Was she hanging out with adults?
Or
That's
older,
questionable.
or high
Very
schoolers.
confusing.
She could have been dating.
Yeah.
She could have been hanging out
Were
with
there
high
high
schoolers.
school- No, but don't
Yep.
you get your driver's license at 18 in Korea?
Oh, maybe.
Probably.
Huh.
Because I don't think it's the same
Yeah.
as here.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong, but I think you get your driver's license at 18 in Korea. So was she hanging out with adults? Because that's questionable.
Who
Or-
knows, honestly?
Who knows?
Who knows? But what added fuel to all of these fires was a statement on Instagram from high kick through the roof actress So Shin-ae, claiming that she was also a victim of bullying and was ostracized throughout her school years. While she did not name the perpetrators, netizens put two and two together and recognized the details pointed to Soojin. So Shin-ae later wrote in a now deleted post that this bully insulted her behind her back and caused her pain. So,
Yep.
that's a lot.
It was a lot. It's like the amount of like people who were accusing her of bullying and how severe
Was almost comical.
Yeah.
It's a lot. There was so much of it, and it's like I don't think for her there was any coming back from this ever, but I
no.
also do think Cube could have handled it better than they did.
Yeah,
because
Cube
it's
did
like
not
they
handle
took
that
literal,
well.
They took fucking years to figure it
took
Didn't
out.
they
so
also were
long.
like wasn't there a whole thing where it was just like, oh, I will do XYZ if it is proven to be true of this lawsuit that I did these things. Or
Yeah,
something.
it's
Did
like
they
they
make some
kept
weird statement like
releasing
that?
Weird
They
fucking
kept making
statements.
weird
Yeah,
statements.
like they make weird statements. They were very unclear about everything that was happening. That it seemed
Mhm.
like all of their statements became like a little bit untrustworthy at some point because they were just really vague and so weird.
Yeah.
And it was like a lot of people were able to, because this Soojin was in that like group of like bullying scandals that happened last year that was taking down like
Where
everybody
it was like
and anyone.
18 different scandals at the same time.
And she's one of the only people who like really got taken down with it.
It was like her and Jisoo.
Yeah, and it's like I don't think that
Which Jisoo
necessarily what she
again?
did was he's
The
an actor
Jisoo.
Jisoo.
Actor Jisoo, okay.
Yeah. Where they had to replace him in a drama mid-filming and refilm all of the scenes. It was a lot.
Gotcha.
Apparently refilm all the scenes,
Mhm.
but like it was a questionable time.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like, and I feel like Cube, it's like, it's like with this individual situation, I don't know if there was like, if Cube can handle it in a way
I
that
don't think
she is
Cube
able
knows how
to
to
still
handle
promote.
scandals.
But like, I do feel like there is definitely a way they could have done it better, regardless.
Because like the thing
Yeah.
with Cube is that Cube at no point seemed to deny any of it.
No.
They were doing internal investigations, which then it's questionable if like, okay, so did they do internal investigations and did they just find out that everything was true? But then at that point, why continue to like try to say like it's very weird.
Yeah.
And it's because it almost feels like they maybe just said maybe you just admit to that because it's like because it's gonna turn out better, but then the accusation started like snowballing and got worse than what they expected, and so they had to backpedal and like try to do other stuff with it. But it's just like it just seemed like it took them so long to figure out
Yeah.
what to do with it.
I just think that they were like Cube had this tendency to either be both very slow and very quick to action.
Yeah,
Because, like, immediately after the Hyuna Edon, they deny it, but don't talk enough to their artists where, like, no, we're gonna admit to it right now.
right,
Like,
right.
it seems like it's just lack of communication within the company, and also being both too fast and impulsive, and also way too slow.
Yeah.
It's both.
With
It's like
how you're
they're
addressing
like
situations.
impulsive in like the exact wrong situations when they shouldn't be doing that, and then taking way too long in situations where
Because,
they
like-
need to be quicker.
Because, like, you have, like, the other way of handling things. Like, for example, SM has the tendency to, no matter what the situation is, they don't make any statements.
No,
They let it play out in public, and no one can.
they just do not respond to it
they
for
do
a
not
really long
respond.
time. Yeah.
And, like, in a weird way, or you have the other way of just responding, but responding in a way that either defends your artist or, like, very quickly with that. Like, April's situation, where they were accused of bullying.
Yeah, that's right.
They constantly had to do. They did
Oh,
too
yeah.
many statements, possibly. That's so many statements. We did that in, like, tier 1.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
too many statements.
Yep.
But, like, this just sort of seemed like a weird middle ground where it's like, we're kind of gonna.
Or
say
maybe they were like, maybe if we drag
something.
it out so long, people will forget about it. But it's like,
You know,
the people are not going to
yeah.
forget about it if you're continually making statements about it.
Exactly. They're not.
Exactly. You know, the people that survived that bullying scandal pretty well are, one, the people that said nothing and let it play out, and two, the people that definitely had proof that it was wrong.
Mhm.
For example, the one, the actor that was an Uncanny Counter, him just saying, I went to school in New Zealand.
Mhm.
This isn't true.
And then there's also
And,
like
like,
Chu from Luna. They quickly dispelled that one.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
mean-
like
again,
Hyunjin of Stray Kids was also in that, and JYP
He
put
just
him
said
on a
nothing.
hiatus, and he came back later, and he apologized.
he said
went on
nothing.
hiatus and came back, and he's fine now.
and now he's fine. And now no one mentions that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We're done. So in reality, there is like you have to handle these situations very
Like,
particularly.
I do feel like there is like a world where if Cube does the thing, or like they have Sujin apologize, they put her on hiatus, they don't say anything else about it, and they bring her
She
back
can come
now
back
for the
later.
comeback they're
'Cause
like
it's,
having
like,
in
not
March.
even,
Like
like-
that could probably happen.
Yeah.
Because it's not even like G-Idol did anything else.
No.
I mean, like they did a few solo stuff members, but that's about
They
it.
But,
did
like,
solo
nothing-
stuff,
but, like,
yeah,
nothing
they were
collective as a
essentially
group.
waiting for that to die
Yeah,
down
pretty much
before they
everyone but
even attempted to
I don't
come
even know
back.
if Shua did anything solo, but all the other four
No,
did.
she did
The
not.
other four did
Yeah.
do solo stuff.
Minhyun didn't do much. Miyeon, sorry.
Mia
She
showed up
she
in a
does
few.
acting.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
she does some
She showed up in a
acting,
few
yeah.
singles here and there too. Like she was on
Nothing
a
too
single with
much.
Kim Millie, who's
Nothing
a rapper.
too interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
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 That is the end of tier 3 of the Scandal Iceberg.
Ooh.
Woo.
We're not even halfway there yet.
We're getting
We're
there.
like a third of the way there.
We're
We're a
close
third of
to
the way
halfway
there.
there.
We're getting there.
Mm-hmm.
Chugging along.
So we are available on all major podcasting platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcast. And if you're over there and you can leave a review, go ahead and leave us a review because it helps out the podcast a lot. We also have a YouTube channel where we post all of our episodes along with a extra clip video every week as well. We also have a very inactive Instagram and Twitter account, but if you want to follow us there, you can. They exist.
Yay.
So yeah, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.